I know this because I've had this conversation many times with many Christians. I grew up,
and I
sir,
say this
sir,
with a full
sir. I grew up
I
in
say
a
this
Christian
with a
church.
full heart.
I grew up in a Christian church, man. I've been there. I've read it. This is not
You have,
new evidence you're bringing to me.
but you're not giving me any specifics. You're reading something off of Nova, like the TV show that tells people that my religion is not true. Listen, there's a much, and I mean this with a full heart for you, I really do. There is a much deeper discussion here, but every time that I bring you something specific, you immediately reject it without even hearing me. So I don't fully think that you're being honest with yourself when I asked you the question, if I can show you evidence. You see, I'm showing you evidence, but you're rejecting it. You're actually what's Romans chapter 1.
I don't think you have a good idea of what evidence is. If you think what you presented is evidence,
with all due respect,
you give an opinion.
We're
Opinion
talking
is not
about
evidence.
things that you can't confirm because you don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to tell you with a full heart. Nas, here, let me just say this as a closing thing, because honestly, I don't know if this conversation is going to go any further.
Indeed,
there's a lot to be said about it. There's a lot to be said about it. Now, if you want to take a topic at a time, we can piece it apart. Otherwise, I don't know if anything I'm going to say to you is going to satisfy you. Now, I haven't even discussed the creation of the world. I've only discussed very, very little. We haven't even talked about Hebrews chapter 1. The fact that all men know.
Were you going to tell me the world was created in 7 days and he made the stars also? That small little add-on at the end where we're talking about there are billions of stars in this universe and multiple galaxies.
Well,
he made the stars also.
Do you believe in evolution, Nas?
Yes. You don't?
You believe in evolution? Okay, so you believe that we come from primates millions of years ago?
That's not how evolution works. We come from.
See, this is a different evolution. Go ahead, Nas. Tell us about your evolution.
Well, if we're talking about Homo sapien leading up all the way to Homo sapien sapien, which is what we are, we're not actually talking about primates. That's the point I was trying to make.
Well, we came from primates, so that's the evolutionary process or at least Darwinism evolution. We come from primates.
Not necessarily. That's been said a lot by people who never really read Darwin. They just kind of scope it, but no, not really.
Well, okay, so Darwin never taught that we came from primates?
Well, the thing is, Darwin, we're talking about the 1800s. He was so far behind in science that a lot of things that he came up with have proven to be, okay, he got this right, but he got that wrong. And science takes huge leaps in civilization, as we all find. And what's happened is the church, which has always been lagging behind science, typically tries to change its doctrine to try to compete with science or make itself relevant in its specific time. We go back 100 years, you wouldn't be able to work or go anywhere or do anything on a Sunday. Now Christians allow that. You see?
Very legalistic. I agree with you. Hey, Nas, I just had a question about evolution. Before we became who we are today, I mean, I don't know your view on it, or I'm just asking. What happened before that? Were we? Did we live in the water as the Darwin taught? Like, tell me about going backwards. We were these.
I'm not well versed enough in evolution to sit here and give you chapter and verse on it. But I will tell you. I will tell you this. If you don't believe in evolution, but you do believe in the Bible, maybe it's just your person of faith and not a man who believes in investigation. And that's all right. That's okay. If that's what you believe.
Oh, yeah, but you disagree with it, Nas.
Well, religion consists of a set of things which the average man thinks he believes and wishes he was certain about.
Hey, Nas, I just want to ask you a question. Do you think you're being a little, and don't take this the wrong way at all, please don't. I'm just asking a serious question. Don't you feel as though you're being a little dishonest with your answer? Only because just a moment ago you were criticizing me for believing that God created the world in 6 days and not for believing in evolution. But then just a second ago you just said, But if you want to believe it, that's fine with you. So
Yeah, that's fine
which
with
is
me. I'm not trying to convert you. You see? It's fine to me if you're a Christian. I have no
But you
problem
were
with that.
just criticizing me just a moment ago. Why are you criticizing me if it doesn't matter?
Well, if your belief system is strong enough, you shouldn't care if somebody else doesn't believe the same.
But why you? I'm asking why you're criticizing me if it doesn't matter.
Because we're having this discussion, so I don't think sensitivity should be in it. I think we should have this discussion full out.
Okay, so do you believe that in the beginning a Big Bang happened?
Well, let me ask you this: how old is the Earth?
I'm asking you if you believe that the universe came into existence.
Well,
with a Big Bang.
I didn't know you had carte blanche here to be the one only asking questions. You asked me several. I asked you one. How old is the Earth?
Questions. I believe that God created the world in literally 6 days. He created all the animals and the plants and mankind. 6 days.
How old is the Earth, though? That's not the question.
It's about 6,000 years old.
6,000. Wow. So when we find not only historic sites as far as buildings, bridges, ceramics, tools, war instruments that are older than 6,000 years, what does that mean?
How do they know that, by the way, Nas? I'm just curious.
Well, there's geological testing. There's also the testing of water splatter. There's also the testing of carbon dating. There's many scientific ways. Yeah, there's many scientific ways you can test how old something
is. You're talking about carbon dating, correct?
But did you just tell me 6,000 years?
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure we're saying something and we're getting everything correct. So
absolutely, I believe in 6,000 years ago, roughly. We don't know how many to the day, but about 6,000 years ago, give or take, that God created the world in literally 6 days. And with a God like that, He's more than capable of doing it.
Well, 6,000 years is not long enough because we're just getting into ancient history. We're barely reaching the Romans.
How do you know that?
Years ago.
Do you think that we evolved?
Not only did they leave actual historical works and timelines about that, but we have historical evidence that shows that not only were the Romans an older culture, because there was the Sumerians, there were the Egyptians, there was the Ethiopians before them, but there are much older cultures in the world than they are. What is it, Göbekli Tepe? That you can date that past 6,000 years. Like, there's many sites and monuments around this earth that are older than 6,000 years. How does that happen?
But Nas, really quick. Remember, there's not like a price tag or an age tag attached to these. So sometimes a scientist, for instance, can find bones in the dirt. All they have is bones. It doesn't tell them how old it is. It doesn't even tell them if those bones ever had any children. Okay, and what evolution?
Did you have any time studying archaeology?
Hang on a second. I let you talk.
Okay, go ahead.
What happens a lot of times is they'll do something called carbon dating, okay, which they'll take the tissues, if they find any tissue on a bone of an animal, and then what they'll do is they'll test it. Well, to everybody's surprise, actually, it was about just recently that discovering that carbon dating actually is not very reliable. There's many articles that have been printed about it. In fact, they found an elephant remains buried in the dirt. They dated his tusk 30,000 years, and they dated his leg 5,000 years. So carbon dating is not a very reliable source. There's many reasons why. I would suggest you...
That first reason you gave is not true. I've seen that story. Go to Snopes.com right now. That story he just told. Sir, you just told a story that wasn't true. Anybody out there listening, go to Snopes.com. That story you just told is...
Quiet, one at a time.
A reliable source.
Well, I just gave you Snopes.com to look up, and they'll show you that story you just told wasn't true.
Not reliable. It's a reliable source of dating. You cannot date old bones in the dirt. All you have are bones.
Sir, how long were you an archaeologist?
I was never an archaeologist. I've listened to teachers
Indeed.
in archaeology.
And these teachers were from what type of school?
It doesn't matter. They're archaeologists.
It matters. Were they from a theological school?
More archaeologists are better.
Hmm?
The ones who agree with you are the better ones.
No,
No, I would say the ones who don't have an incentive to tell a story in a certain way are better. Ones who are objective.
Truthfully, Nas, I don't know much about archaeology. So what I would do is I would check out Kent Hovind. That's Hovind. He's on secondpeter3.com. Wonderful guy.
Secondpeters3.com? Hold on. The website is secondpeters3.com.
No, 2peter3.com.
Okay, so a theological website, right?
2 Peter.
Well, he's a Christian. That's what you mean.
Yeah, so it would be in his interest. It would be in his interest to tell the story in that fashion, correct?
Well,
I wouldn't trust a banker to tell me about the bailout.
Not a reliable source. But you're not an archaeologist either, Nas, so you can't criticize me for not being an archaeologist.
Well, I'm just asking a simple question. If we were to investigate the bailout on Wall Street, would you want to talk to the bankers or somebody outside of them?
Oh, I'd want to hear what people are saying about it. And
yeah, but
actually,
investigate it. Would you want the bankers?
Refound archaeologists that say that carbon dating is not reliable. It is.
Would you want a banker?
If you give me your email address, I'll send you some articles.
No, that's okay. I'll go with your theological website. I'll go with that one.
Yeah, go ahead and check it out. His name's Kent Hovind. Great guy. He's a science teacher, actually.
I'm sure he is a great guy. That has nothing to do with his work. There have been many great people who've done horrible work.
So
look, man,
you
gotta get your emotions out of this. You believe in Christianity, God, Jesus, that whole, the three tenets of it. That's your thing. That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. But the idea that you need to convince me, and I just don't have enough evidence, and I just need to learn more. You know what I mean? Like, it's the height of not only hubris, but like, where do you get the audacity to think that you are the one walking around with this great knowledge that everybody else is just missing out on? I went to church, man. I've read this stuff. I know it.
The word of God.
And if we measured religion by the amount of blood that they've spilled on this earth, we might do away with all of it.
Well, I think you're speaking out of ignorance. The only people that spill blood
Did I
are the
make that up?
non-Christians.
Did I make that up?
There are many people in the name of Christ who've done terrible things, but they're not real Christians. They're actually disobeying Christ.
Okay. So kill them all. The Amalekites,
it doesn't mean they're a Christian
children,
and
the babes too. Is that in the Bible? Is that in the Bible? Was Joshua told to kill the men, the women, the children, and the animals?
He was leading out an entire civilization of people, the Canaanites.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be sanctioned, right? That's in the Bible.
Absolutely. If it was sanctioned by God, he did it for a reason.
There we go.
Nah, stop. First of all, you don't know enough about the Canaanites. See, you want to defend people. And understand
the Canaanites are the problem.
Okay, so tell me about the Canaanites. I would love to hear what you think about the Canaanites.
I don't think anything about any particular group of people. I wouldn't consider any people are evil enough to all of them be wiped out. I think genocide is wrong. You don't.
But hey, Nas, there is a reason. See, how come God didn't wipe out in Joshua's time? He did wipe out the entire world at one time, right? Because we see the flood. But how come God didn't go around the whole world and say, okay, you Jews, kill those people, those people, those people, those people? He didn't do that. He picked
depends on who's writing the book.
People who are doing terrible, terrible things, spreading diseases. Now, I don't like genocide any more than you do, but I don't question God's reasoning for doing the things he did to move the people forward to fulfill his purposes.
I would suggest you question the men who wrote the Bible, who pass it off as the Word of God, and who say these historical events had to happen because God said so. I think man has always looked for reasons for power and the ability to say that you have the sanction of the divine has been a great way to pull off any atrocity you wanted to. as we see
Meaning
right
what?
now.